Sometimes some pretty strange things happen in the NBA. These are the weirdest moments in NBA history. Let's get things started with a play that happened in Washington. The Wizards seemed to have the game all locked up, especially when Washington's Michael Ruffin intercepted the inbound pass. However, he inexplicably throws the ball in the air with just enough time for Morris Peterson to catch it and knock down a three-point buzzer beater to tie the game. An absolutely incredible play, but it was a little weird. Sometimes people do things that seem unnecessary, such as this next player that did something bizarre with one of his shoes. In 2005, Shaquille O'Neal got one of his massive shoes turned into a cell phone. It wasn't only the biggest cell phone in history, it was also likely the smelliest. But when you're a businessman like Shaq, I guess you gotta be available for phone calls even when you're on the court. Shaq was just having some fun, but Reggie Evans took fun way too far. Playoff basketball can get pretty intense. Sometimes it even gets a little violent. But what happened during a playoff game between the Clippers and Nuggets in 2006 was straight up weird. While Reggie Evans was battling Chris Kaman for a rebound, he reached underneath him and grabbed his nutsack. And when I say nutsack, yes, I mean his testicles. Just went ahead and yanked him as if he was attempting to rip them right out of his butthole. That's a big ouch. We felt that from here. Chris Kaman obviously had a strong reaction, but can you really blame him? That's a pretty strange and uncomfortable way to foul a man, but this next player fouled a player so many times he broke a record. In 1997, Dallas Mavericks head coach Don Nelson attempted a weird strategy for the first time in NBA history. The Mavs were playing against the Chicago Bulls, who were led by the best player in the world, Michael Jordan. Nelson thought that if he could keep MJ from getting shots that the Mavs could win the game, so he decided to play a rookie named Bubba Wells who barely got any playtime that season, and Wells' job was to foul Bulls power forward Dennis Rodman every single time that the Bulls got the ball. The idea was that they would force the lousy free throw shooting Rodman to hit shots instead of giving the opportunity to Jordan. And Wells committed 6 fouls in only 2 minutes and 43 seconds. That's the quickest a player has ever fouled out of an NBA game. Nelson's weird strategy didn't even work. Rodman went 9 for 12 from the free throw line and the Bulls won the game. What a flop. Don Nelson was the first, but definitely not the last coach to implement this tactic in a game. Next is a play that still has me wondering what the hell happened. During a game in 2023 between the Warriors and the Mavericks, there seemed to be a little confusion. Late in the third quarter, the Mavericks thought that it was their ball, but instead, the ref gave the ball to the Warriors. And while no Mavericks players were lined up on the proper side of the court, the referee gave the ball to the Warriors to inbound for a free basket. The play was so weird that no one really understood what the heck was going on, and Mavs owner Mark Cuban protested the outcome of the game after it was finished due to all the confusion. These plays are pretty weird, but what's even weirder is that you haven't subscribed to our channel yet. What are you waiting for? Do it already. Or do you need us to go all Reggie Evans on you and rip your balls off? Now let's check out this crazy streak that an unlikely player went on. Jeremy Lin's story is one of the craziest and weirdest in NBA history. For starters, the man who earned the nickname Linsanity was the first ever Chinese American to play in the NBA. And getting there was enough of a struggle for him. The Harvard graduate went undrafted and was having trouble earning minutes for any team. Some people cited racial profiling as the reason for his lack of opportunity. Either way, during a stretch of games in 2012, he started playing like a pure superstar. The Knicks were 8-15 and were also missing their two best players, Carmelo Anthony and Amari Stoudemire, due to injury. So Jeremy Lin, who had barely scored all season long, was given his shot. And he went off playing like a man possessed. Lin, out of nowhere, averaged 25 points and 9 assists over a 9-game stretch while leading his team to an 8-1 record. Opposing teams were stunned. It was one of the weirdest breakouts in NBA history. Jeremy Lin was talented, but he didn't stay in the league very long. This next player was having trouble hitting free throws, so he decided to try something no one had ever tried before. We've seen players make changes to their game when they are struggling, but in 2022, Mason Plumlee took that strategy to a whole other level. Plumlee was a bad free throw shooter throughout his entire career, but in 2022, he saw his free throw percentage drop to about 36%. That's just awful. So he had to do something drastic. And what he did in a game against the Miami Heat shocked everyone. He attempted his free throws left-handed, and Plumlee has continued to shoot left-handed since making this weird adjustment to his game. Believe it or not, Plumlee's shooting has improved since he switched to left-handed. Maybe the Rockets should have tried shooting left-handed in this game because nothing else seemed to work for them. In 2014, the Rockets came out firing on all cylinders against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They were off to the races with 73 points after the first half of play, but whatever their coach told them at halftime must have really shattered the Rockets players' confidence. They came out in the second half playing more like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off than a professional basketball team. The entire group combined for a measly 19 points in the second half, and the Rockets lost the game 104-92 on what was the biggest point discrepancy from a first half to a second half in NBA history. Yikes, that's just atrocious. 19 points for an entire team? Maybe they were playing without their shoes on like a player that comes in at number 12. In a game between the Warriors and the Mavericks, Golden State forward Maurice Spate's shoe fell off while he was playing offense, and then he had to play defense in one sock and one shoe. When his team got back to the offensive end of the floor, Stephen Curry tossed Spate's shoe back to him when Tyson Chandler swatted it away to ensure that Spates had to continue playing barefoot. Of all his career blocks, this was definitely the weirdest by Tyson Chandler. Losing a shoe is one thing, but this next player made a mistake that pissed off his teammates pretty badly. The 2018 NBA Finals got off to a pretty crazy start. The Cavs and the Warriors were playing in their record-breaking fourth consecutive finals against one another, and the Warriors were the overwhelming favorites to win. The Cavaliers battled their way to an opportunity to win Game 1 on a pair of free throws by George Hill right at the end of the fourth quarter. Hill tied the game with his first free throw and then missed his second. However, Cavs guard J.R. Smith caught the rebound, but instead of shooting, he dribbled out the clock. Clearly, in the most important game of the season, Smith didn't even know the score. The play was one of the biggest mental lapses in finals history. Ouch, I'd hate to be J.R. Smith after that game. I'd also hate to be Russell Westbrook after all the abuse he had to take when he was playing for the Lakers, but maybe he deserved it. In 2022, Russell Westbrook was being highly criticized in his first season with the Los Angeles Lakers. But this shot that he took against the Houston Rockets was a total head-scratcher. Russ, who earned the nickname Westbrick for his atrocious shooting stats, lined up a little mid-range jump shot from the elbow and launched a shot that wasn't even close. His shot hit the top of the backboard. I get missing shots, but this? Come on, Russ. Westbrook wasn't the only player to hit the top of the backboard, though. Kendall Gill took a pretty weird shot in the year 2000. With the clock running out in the first half, he heaved up a half-court prayer that bounced off the top of the backboard and then into the hoop for one of the most miraculous-looking three-pointers we've ever seen. I bet he couldn't do that twice for $1 million. Gill got pretty lucky on that shot, but Brandon Knight got incredibly unlucky on this next shot at number 8. In 2014, Brandon Knight made a great play in overtime by intercepting a pass and running it back down the floor for a wide-open game-winning layup attempt. Unfortunately, he flat-out missed the layup in a weird sequence of events that left us wondering how an NBA player could miss a shot that most 12-year-olds could make. Yikes, that's embarrassing. But what might be even more embarrassing is getting carried like a baby when you are in the NBA. Steven Adams is one of the strongest men to ever play in the NBA, so when an opposing player tries to mess with his teammates, he fills the role of enforcer. And that's what happened during a Bulls vs. Grizzlies game when Tony Bradley decided to start some beef with Ja Morant. Adams wasn't having any of it and totally emasculates Bradley by carrying him like a baby away from the young guard. Don't we all need a friend like Steven Adams in our life? Steven Adams is a savage. I mean, Tony Bradley is far from a small man, but boy, he must have felt small that day. Next, we look at the time when Charles Barkley kissed Dick. In 2007, Charles Barkley agreed to race a 67-year-old NBA referee named Dick Bavetta. The race, which Barkley won, had a very weird ending. The two men rejoiced and kissed each other on the mouth at center court. I gotta say, it's a pretty weird-looking couple, but hey, who are we to judge? Speaking of romance, you won't believe the shenanigans these next players got up to at number 5. Remember Reggie Evans, the ball snatcher from earlier in our video? Well, he was at it again. In a game against the Phoenix Suns, he and Grant Hill started spanking each other until both men got ejected from the game. Dual spankings? Okay guys, knock it off. After a brief protest, the two men walked off the court in unison, and we wonder if they took their post-game shower together too. These guys are finding brand new and weird ways to get kicked out of games. Check out how T-Mac got himself kicked out back in 2004. Tracy McGrady got really pissed off during a basketball game in 2004. I don't know what got his panties in such a knot that he lost his mind. He kicked the basketball into the stand, he was so pissed off. Then after he got kicked out of the game, he punted the ball into the second deck. This madman signed up for the wrong sport. Now that we have looked at the weirdest ways that players have gotten kicked out, let's look at a weird entrance. These days, it's getting pretty hard to keep up with NBA fashion trends. Some of these guys wear some pretty crazy outfits, but check out this pink sweater that Kyle Kuzma wore to a game. This has to be a joke, right? Apparently not. This sweater has left us with way more questions than answers, such as, who the hell was this sweater made for? Kyle Kuzma is 6'9". Why the heck are the arms so long? As we wind down, we've got to look at the weirdest players the NBA has ever seen. And this video wouldn't be complete without at least mentioning the one and only Meta World Peace. Ron Artest is one of the weirdest guys to ever play in the NBA. He's admitted to getting drunk at halftime, he attacked a fan, and then legally changed his name to Meta World Peace. But this interview has got to be one of the weirdest of his entire career. A reporter asked him if NBA players usually refer to him as Meta or Ron, and he responded by stating that he is just grateful that Jesus allowed him to lose his baby teeth as a child instead of while he's a full-grown man. He makes a valid point, a weird one, but we feel that, Meta. Last but not least, we have a player that is so weird we don't even question it anymore. There have been plenty of weirdos that have played in the NBA, but Dennis Rodman takes the cake for the weirdest player of all time. And the weirdest thing he ever did was marry himself in New York City. Rodman got dressed in a full-blown wedding dress topped off with a blonde wig and full makeup before going out on the town to get married to himself. What in the heck? If it was anyone else, they probably would have gotten laughed at, but I think everyone was too terrified of Rodman to even make a joke. I wonder what was on his gift registry. There you have it. Those were the weirdest plays in NBA history. If you liked this video, give us a like and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Also, click on the video that's up on your screen right now to watch more of our great NBA-related content.